live on, and again, Instagram is acting so weird. I don't understand why this is happening to me. This is crazy.
It's
So,
always one or the other. It's either Instagram or Facebook that just
yeah,
goes
it's some
bonkers.
nonsense. It's straight nonsense. And so, we may not be live on Instagram today because I don't feel like spending a whole bunch of time trying to connect it. But
Okay.
let's see, on, live on LinkedIn, so that one
Okay.
is working.
Okay.
And I'm going to check to make sure that we are live on Facebook as well.
Yeah, Instagram is not working for me. So
Yeah, it's the only reason I picked this service because I wanted it to be um,
lovely.
all the things.
Lovely. I don't see it on Facebook. Maybe you see it. I just don't see
I
it.
just changed the settings on Facebook, so if you
Oh, okay. That's probably
should
why.
pop up.
Okay.
So we are on LinkedIn and Facebook and
I see
YouTube. That one works. That one
it.
all works.
Okay.
So
Cool.
we're all the places. I just got the thing saying now live on your channel. So um, if someone can't catch it on Instagram or somewhere else, they absolutely can go to our YouTube channel and check it out. And I think it's under Work with SVS. So,
Okay. Sounds
but
good.
we'll figure it out. All right. So happy Tuesday. And we are almost out of February. We're going into month 3 of 2024. I'm still practicing the year and the correct month
Me
and quite
too.
frankly, the correct day. But I am Tanisha Stallnaker of SVS, and I have with me Geily Romero, fractional CFO and accountant, and money just you guys don't understand. Like, I'm so excited for this conversation for a multitude of reasons. Um, Full disclosure, because I love giving these disclosure statements before we start. The dog is outside, but he's making lots of noise, so we'll see how that goes. I did not eat lunch, so if I get a little squirrely, it's the hangry kicking in. But when we talk about the focus of today's call, this woman is about to save my life financially because this is the part of my business that causes me the most heartburn, stress. I mean, let me build the team, let us sell the services, let me do all the things, but I want someone to take the money and tell me what my allowance is and what I'm allowed to spend and just keep the IRS off of my back because I got another letter. You guys know that this has been a saga of me trying to change one thing with the IRS, and it's literally been now 13 months of letters, and it's not changed, but it's okay because Geily just let me know that she's going to fix it for me, and we're going to make it work.
We're gonna make it work.
And I will
We
no
are.
longer have a visceral reaction when I see the IRS on a letter coming to my home. So, weirdest introduction ever so far for this series,
So far,
but
yes.
dang it. But we all know I'm going to go down a rabbit hole at some point. So, you go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell the people in your own better words who you are so I don't gush over how you're going to save my financial mishaps in life.
Of course. So my name is Geily Romero, and I provide CFO services and accounting services and bookkeeping for service-based business owners. So I take the bookkeeping, the tax prep, the cash flow, the strategy, all these financial things off your plate, and I work on those for you and with you.
And
Yes.
she's so nice about it. I
And I
can't.
do cash flow, a lot of it.
Yes, cash flow is a big part of it, but the bigger part to me is that somebody asked me why I chose to work with you, and I was saying that for me, way of looking at things, it's either like a hell yes or a hell no.
Hmm.
And with you, it was such an immediate like safety feeling of
Yeah.
not only am I not going to be judged for when I lift the hood and you see everything, but also it's like I genuinely know you're going to take care of it.
Mhm.
And so, side note, if you guys are looking for someone to help with the financial side of your business, those are very important factors, at least to me.
Mhm.
So, that being said, cash flow.
Thank you.
Let's let's talk about it.
Okay, cash flow. Okay. So a lot of times people think about cash flow, and the first thing I get is, what is cash flow? So that's where we're going to dive right in. What is cash flow? So a lot of times we have this like abstract idea of what cash flow is, and we don't, or we've heard the word or we've heard the term and we don't really know. It's super simple. It's literally the flow of money or cash flowing in and out of your business. So it's just money coming in, money going out. And it's a little bit of an art and a science because there's timing to it. So you've got to make sure that the money's coming out at the same time that it's coming in, or at least before it goes, after it comes in. But a really good, another analogy I like to think of is, think of like a river, and there's water flowing in and it has streams that it goes out into other streams. If there's not enough water coming in constantly, that river is going to dry out as it just continues to go out into different streams. That is cash flow issues. And so as long as there's money coming in, or not money, but water in this case, coming into that river, there will be enough for when it starts to come out. And that's the simplest way that I can talk about cash flow. It's literally the make it or break it of every business, to be honest.
Awesome. Awesome. And I like the analogy of the water flow because it's such
Mm-hmm.
an easy visual to kind of
Yeah.
track.
Yeah.
I wish someone had said it to me that way maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but carry
Yeah.
on. Um, so yes. So what is cash flow is typically the first thing, I guess. I would love during our 30 minutes or so, if we can kind of touch on, and I get it, this is like a conversation that could definitely be much, much longer,
Oh, yeah.
but to spend some time looking at what are some of the maybe top 3 to 5 pitfalls that you tend to see, and,
Mm-hmm.
and what are some quick, maybe not fixes, but solutions to kind of put people
Yeah.
on the right track.
Awareness and things like that. Okay. Yeah. So it'll look different depending on your business. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're a new business, it may look one way. It may be that you're undercharging. It may be the lack of income. It may be the lack of sales. That may be, if you're a fairly new business, that may be kind of your struggle as far as cash flow goes. Because when we're new, we don't really have a lot of expenses, or we don't tend to have a lot of expenses. We just kind of have the issue of, like, am I marketing myself enough? Am I generating enough sales? Is money coming in enough? And then that's why a lot of times, a lot of businesses fail within the first few years, because that's the struggle. That's the cash flow struggle that you go through. But when you're a little bit more seasoned and you've been in business for a little while, cash flow issues look a little different than that. You may still have a little bit of the sales here and there or whatever. We all have peak seasons and slow seasons. That's normal. That's how it is in every business. Even in my business, like, there's peak seasons and there's low seasons, because just times with cash and taxes and things like that, people just have their mindset. The holidays, those are slow seasons for me, because people are not thinking about those things. They're not thinking about doing their taxes. They're not thinking about, even being in their business. They're just in their home, or they're on vacation. The kids are out of school, or whatever the case may be. So if you are on that other side where your business has been going on for a little while, then there's things like excessive spending. That's when that becomes a problem. There's things like having trouble to meet your obligations, like payroll or your own salary, other bills that you got to cover. There's lack of financial clarity around, the money that's coming in and the money that's going out. It could be something like, this is actually my least favorite, and this is where a lot of people come to me. I make a lot of money, but I don't feel like I make a lot of money, and I have no money. And that's like what they always say.
I told you I feel a little bit attacked during this time.
Okay.
All apply, but a few parts apply. And I'm just being real blunt with people. I could have hidden behind it and smiled, but I don't think that's serving
That's
anyone.
not you. That's not you.
It's not my nature, and I don't think it's helping people for the purpose of this. I want this to be like real conversation. I was tempted to bring my numbers up, but I was like, hell no, I'm not doing that.
No, I would advise you against that.
But carry on.
Yes. So that's literally a lot of what cash flow issues kind of revolve around when you're a little bit more seasoned. And the one where, like I said, like, most of my clients come to me and they're like, the business is making money, but my top line looks very different from my bottom line, or at least what I take home, that already indicates to me that there is a lack of just solution. And, like, a lot of money may be coming in, but a lot of it is also going out, and not going out to you, going out to other things that may not necessarily be aligned to your goals, or aligned to why you even started your business in the first place, and it like blows my mind, because if we were in a 9 to 5 and they literally told us, you will not get paid, but you still got to show up.
Yeah, we wouldn't be there.
We wouldn't be there. We would literally quit, but we do it in our business day in and day out, even when we make six figures,
Yeah.
like that just happens and we don't realize, like, or we're funding the business with our own money instead of the other way around. The business is supposed to fund our life. Yeah. That's, yeah.
So I agree with every single point you made. I've probably touched almost all of those points at some point.
So
I think, yes, it's a different pain point or stressor when you first start out versus after you've been like somewhat established. I'm always baffled by the statistic that shows how most businesses close in like a couple of years, and the fact that I'm long past that point.
Yeah.
So I have to remind myself of that, where it's like, you've already beat a good portion of odds.
Yeah, that's true.
There's that one where it shows that, like, Black women or minority women only make on an average like $20,000 in their business a year. And I'm like, well, I'm definitely beating those odds.
Yeah.
And even with that, there's still the thing of, when you first start out, what you hear, especially in online businesses, six figures. Six figures is like the pinnacle of like the songs start when you hit
All
six
of all.
figures, the angels sing, everything is perfect, life is wonderful. I didn't even notice when I hit six figures the first time.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, that's what that was?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I got the wrong six figures. Maybe I should have gotten like the double six figures. Maybe like 100,000 wasn't enough. Well, maybe what they really meant was 200,000. And then here comes 200,000, and it's like, okay, so that one didn't feel right either.
Yeah.
So maybe what they really meant is like 400,000. So it's like in my mind, I'm constantly playing the game of like, I've hit it and it still doesn't feel like I hit it.
Yeah. But it's the more we make, the more we spend. That's just what it is, and then, and also what your business makes is not what you make. And that's why when I work with CFO clients, I start with, their financial goals, and I start with their financial plans. And then I go into, what do you want to make? And then we kind of work that backwards. So that way, when you see that top line and you see that bottom line, it's not so like, 3 pages out, because there's so many expenses out going out of the business. And you're just like, what the heck, So it's really important to be able to like have the idea of, yes, the business can be six figures, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I made six figures, So that's where we have to definitely be a little bit, of an art. That's where cash flow comes into play.
Yeah, because I know for me, I started like, I made a joke out of it, but I was like, that song is like, more money, more problems, started to play in my head. And I every time that kind of pops in my head, I try to really like squash it really fast, because I also know that how we think about money and how we treat the energy that surrounds money has a lot to do with things as well.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not like a super woo person, but I do know that the mentality that we have in our business when it comes to money absolutely affects how things come in and out as well. So having that water analogy for me was perfect, because it's that constant, I am going to continue to make money, but also spend money. There's a constant, consistent flow of money in my business, in and out.
Yeah. And that's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with spending money, and I saw one of the comments, it takes money to make money. And that's true too. And I don't have a problem with necessarily spending. And there are investments that we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about it from the ROI perspective, because I don't have a problem. I have a problem with spending money when it's excessive spending, when it is eating up your cash flow, when it is bleeding into your personal life, bleeding into your bottom line. That's when I have a problem, when there's no like goals attached to it. It's just, it just got out of control. you
Yeah.
know, and it's not a planning to it. Like I tell all my clients, I'm like, okay, how is this investment? Number one, what is the ROI? And number two, how is this tied to our financial plan? Because with every CFO client, I have a financial plan that we work on, and I always go back to it. And we have monthly calls for a reason. So how is that tied to this financial plan? Which you said that these were your goals for
Yeah.
your business and your personal life. That is what we're going to prioritize. And the spending can be aligned to that, but it will come second.
Thank you for the heads up on our monthly call.
Yes. Yes, you're welcome. You'll love those. I'm using that term very loosely, but you will love that.
I think I will eventually love. Well, here's the thing. I'm gonna love it because I know I need it.
Yeah.
You know, the fact is, this is my first business,
Mhm.
and I know that I'm speaking to a few people with this. Is that it's not that I've never made six figures before. I did that as an employee,
Mhm.
but it's much different than doing it as a business. And, you know, I've had little side hustles or things like that. But the fact of the matter is, I've just never been responsible for this many moving parts of money before.
Mhm.
It's not
Mhm.
just paying a mortgage or a car payment or a light bill. You know, knowing that I not only need to plan ahead
Yeah.
and think months ahead when it comes to bringing in consistent sales and business. There is no period of, at least not right now, where it's like, I can kick back and not sell anything right now,
Yeah.
because I have to keep that going. But then I also have people to pay.
Mhm.
And I take that super seriously, making sure that I can pay them in a timely manner, a fair rate, fair wage, and all of that. Um, you know, but I think for so many of us, we've just never been in this position.
Mhm.
And that whole you don't know what you don't know starts to, it's okay in the beginning
Yeah.
to not know certain things, but after a certain point, your business really can't grow
Mhm.
without getting a handle on these things. So no,
Yeah.
our first conversation, I'm probably not going to be all that happy. And I might have a margarita with my name on it 10 minutes after we log
Yeah.
off. But
Make
I
me one. That's all I'm gonna say.
I might have one while we're talking. Who knows? But I am faithful that it's going to be the thing that helps propel my business to the next goal.
Exactly, exactly. Because you know what I have found is that at the core of the issue of the more we make, the more we spend, there is a lack of financial clarity. There is a lack of just overall sense of planning and
Yeah.
strategy and just like you said, the looking 6 months out. There is one thing when you are new, like we talked about at the beginning, there's cash flow issues on what they look like when you're new, and then there's cash flow issues on what they look like when you're a little bit more seasoned and you've been in business and you made a year or two or three and you're in six figures or whatever the case may be. Those are different, but also the services that your business needs are different. You
Yeah.
may be starting out and you may get by with bookkeeping, and that's fine. You could do that. But if you're in this other side and these are the struggles that you are facing with cash flow, then you need CFO services, because that's when you need the clarity. It goes beyond the books. It goes into financial forecasting. It goes into budgeting. It goes into financial planning. It goes into your goals. It goes into all the areas that, like you said, it's more than what you would say, oh, paying a mortgage or anything in personal finance or a personal budget. A business budget is very different. A
Yeah.
business forecast is very different. So a lot of times we have to realize, okay, my business is growing. This area of my business needs to grow, and I need to go beyond the books. I need to get that financial strategy, or else it's really costing me more money to not invest.
Yep.
Yep.
Here we are live with the
Yeah, and I love your reactions. You're like, are we on our call right now? I just want to know. It's
I
gonna be a
think
lot like this.
we should just lump this one into my invoice because
We might as well. Yeah.
it feels like a little bit of financial therapy, but that's all right. And yes, Nisi, skinny margarita. Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and just put it on my calendar to have it
Yeah.
ready.
Right there.
If I'm at a Mexican restaurant when we log in, just don't judge.
Oh, go with the flow. That's it.
I won't use my business account to pay for it.
Yes, don't, because you're not having a meal with a client and you're not traveling.
So, fair enough. But all right, so now that we know some of the pitfalls and some of the areas that I can't even say others, we fall into, what do you, aside from the basic universal answer of hire you or hire, a fractional CFO, what are some like small things that someone can do to either A, kind of determine, do I need a bookkeeper versus a CFO, or I need to kind of get my financial house in order, but I can't necessarily afford a CFO yet. What are some ideas that you have for them?
Okay. So, the bookkeeping versus the CFO. So, bookkeeping, aside from like, let's say that you can't afford a CFO yet, at least start with bookkeeping, because just knowing your numbers, and we've done that, where it's like, for once I see a P&L, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, for once I know what my top line is, I know what all of my expenses are, and I know what my bottom line is. Okay, at least that's something. If you can't do CFO, start there at least, so that at least you have a financial clarity, in the sense of, at least I know where my numbers are and I can start working on that. Because if you have no reports and you have no data, and you know this in your own business, not even in finance, but data just rules. That's where we go back to all the time. So you have to have data one way or another. If you don't have the strategy, at least have the data. And later on, as you see those numbers, you can do, I like to say, a lot of times we can't really control, or we have very little control over how much we make, but we can control how much we spend. That is a very important key. And a lot of times I look at clients' financials, and this happened to me yesterday. I was on a meeting with a client and I said, what we need to do here before we start any of this is we need to free up cash. And that we do two things. We either generate more sales or we reduce expenses. The fastest way to do that is to reduce expenses, because to generate more sales, we got to market, we got to wait for the calls, we got to wait for the proposal to be signed. All these things, we could be weeks out. But we could literally go through all these expenses and find, which is why I call an expense audit, and find expenses that we could either downgrade, cancel altogether, find an alternative for, and then lower. And we could save 20%. And that's 20% that's going right back into your, into your business, into your pocket, whatever the case may be. So going back to the bookkeeping, when you have that data, you're able to then do an expense audit, because you know what your expenses. Oh, I didn't know I was expending that much in subscriptions. What the heck? What are all these subscriptions? And I didn't know I was paying for this. I don't even use Kajabi or Flowdesk or whatever. Just to mention any. And you're just like, I should just cancel that, and I didn't realize. So that would be number one. And then number two, even if you can't do like a full-blown monthly support, get on a call, even if it's a one call. I offer profit sessions, and they're meant to really look at the business, and they're meant to look at your goals, and they're meant to at least give you some type of strategy to get you started, to get you somewhere. So even if you can't do the monthly commitment yet, you could at least do a one time, and that will propel you forward. Like you don't even know that you could just used an hour of someone's time, and you gain so much, strategy, so much insight that will save you later time, money, resources in the long run. So, and then eventually do plan to have a CFO on board, because that, like, yes, the call will get you so far, the books will get you so far, but having the constant support, that accountability is a lot of times what we lack. It's the accountability of knowing that, okay, this person is here, and they're not only going to check, the how the month went, but they're gonna like literally be with me and say, okay, how do we fix this for the next month, and so on and so on. And like, hey, this happened, how does that align to your goal? Rather than like doing this by yourself and then never looking back at it until the end of the year, and you're like reminiscing on your goals or whatever.
I've done that before also.
Yeah.
I think it's so taking my own financials out of it. Well, before I take myself out of it, the one thing I will say that I have always done is have some type of way of looking at P&Ls.
Yeah.
And that was a hard lesson I learned because I kind of did it in my first year, but I wasn't truly looking at it until the end of the year when I was time to do my taxes. And then I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean I only made this amount of money? Because I had it, I just wasn't really looking at it. So it was like hard lesson number one, actually look at the numbers to see.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, but there is some crossover in how you and I work with our clients that I think is kind of cool, because we both start with an audit.
Yeah.
And, you know, mine, of course, is looking at systems and tools, and yours is looking at financials. But the crossover, aside from the fact we're both doing an audit, is part of mine is looking at all the things that they're paying for and all the tools that they're using, and looking at ways that they can either save time or money, making sure that they're not paying for 16 things. If there's a tool, if there's one tool that can do all 16 things.
Exactly.
And it'd be cheaper. So it's kind of cool that seeing how there's a little bit of an overlap in how we approach it. So that again, even like with you, if the person's not ready to hire me or us yet, they still walk away with some really clear, like a clear picture of where things are today, and potentially an idea of where they would want things to be, so that as they're building their business and bringing in more clients, they kind of have that mind of, all right, so it's going to cost me this amount of money to implement this. I'm not there yet, but I can use that as a goal to kind of work with future clients or whatever to make that happen. So I think that's kind of cool, a cool surprise.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think too, you know, like something you mentioned was when you do the audits, you're like, okay, there's this one tool that could do these 16 things that you're paying the 16 subscriptions for, right? So, and I want to make this also as a point, because a lot of times people are like, no, but I need everything, you know? And again, going back to the spending, you know, like even when I do the expense audits, we look up ROI, and that doesn't necessarily mean all the time is money, but we look at, for instance, you know, like how efficient is this? What does this do for your life? Like if we're going to take this away and it's going to become now 16 extra hours of your time, then okay, maybe that is something that we have to leave. But so what I say with that is, don't just look at the ROI in the form of money, like, oh, I'm saving this much money, but also look at it in the sense of like time and resources. And, you know, because a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm just going to cut, you know, this contractor or whatever. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, that means that now you have to do what that contractor was doing, you know, and then we'll see. And then what happens is that you do cut them out, and then you realize that you don't do it for a few months, and you're like, oh, that's why that person was there. Yeah. You know, or that app or whatever the case may be. And you're like, oh, that's why that was there. Okay. Yeah. Maybe that wasn't the right one to cut out, you know?
Yeah. It's funny. I just had this conversation with one of my one-to-one clients right before this, because with them, I'm looking at if they're ready to build a team, preparing them to be ready to build a team.
Yeah.
Just kind of changing their mindset to think business owner, not, you know, whatever their past life was. But we were talking about the balance of when budget is a concern, the things that you can do yourself that make sense for you to spend your time doing, versus the things that you're going to try to figure out how to do. And it's like, what is the point where you finally wave the flag to say, I'm wasting so much time trying to save money doing it myself that it's actually costing me more money, because now I'm not out selling and I'm not out working.
Exactly.
And so we were literally just talking before this call about kind of that sweet spot of, I'm going to give it a try, you know, and I've given some resources to her. And so she's going to attempt it, but it's like, after like an hour or so, you know, if it's not clicking in any of the ways, just wave the flag, and, you know, we'll work on some ways to make it happen, because there is a balance of, I guess, just our personal ROI, like, you know, the business that I have, we offer so many services. It's hard to market because we offer so many services. I can realistically do probably 85% of the things that my team does.
Exactly.
There are certain areas I'm not bothering. Like, you won't see me doing your SEO. I can explain it to you, but I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
You know, but even the things that I do of that 80%, then it's probably now 30% that I do really, really well and really quickly.
Yeah.
Case in point, like HoneyBook. HoneyBook's not the only tool that we use. But if we ever run into a HoneyBook problem, I'm probably still going to be the go-to person to go to it, just because I have the quickest access to what's changing, what's happening, latest, all of that type of stuff. So it makes sense then. But if I were to go into Keep, for example, which we also use, I know the like general functions of it, but if I had to get in the weeds of it, it would be a waste of my time.
And time is money. You can get money back.
Versus now pulling the team that is in there all the time. You know, like today with that same client, she had some questions in ClickUp. Yes, I'm in ClickUp, but her questions were so in depth that I just pulled in the person that we said that set it up for her.
Yeah.
Because she knows how she built it. She understands this client's business. I was not part of that project. So it just made sense to pull her in to be able to answer those questions versus me now take the time to go through, learn her account, all of that stuff. It was just, it's not a good use of time. So I am at least proud that I've gotten much better, you know, and again, that's, I think another, just a business owner thing is getting yourself out of it, having the trust of, if you have a team, trust them to do the work so that you can focus on making money and growing the business.
Exactly. Because at some point you realize, and this, we could even say it's another cash flow issue. You realize that there's only so much of you to go around. And so you have these goals that you want to accomplish, but you can't, you know, and I see it a lot of times with my photographer clients, for instance, you know, there is only one of you. You can only do so many weddings in a year, you know? So like, we have to explore other options and other services, because you can't, you know, just because there's, you know, 52 weeks in a year doesn't mean you can do 52 weddings in a year. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so maybe that means, you know, you cut that in half, you raise your prices, you know, to compensate for that. You have a second shooter, you do sessions in between or something like that. You know, you explore other options so that it doesn't become, you know, going back to the river analogy, a dry up, because it's like, oh, well, you know, I have all these expenses, but it's just the same money coming in because I can still do the same 20 weddings or whatever, you know? And it's just like, okay, so how do we get more money? What are the areas that we can explore to get more money without the, you know, without depleting you? Because that too is, it's, you know, you are irreplaceable. So we need to make sure that that is untouched. And how do we find ways around it, you know? And so that becomes a cash flow issue when those goals and those expenses become more than the money that you're bringing in, because it is just you.
Yeah.
And there's only so much that only you can do. That's why I've built a team myself too, because I realized at first I was just doing bookkeeping. Then the need became for CFO services. And then I had to, the clients were just like, I need more, I need more, I need more. And then it was like, okay, well, I can't do all of this and all of that. And now we're doing taxes too. So it's like, I am only one person. So I'm like, I need to be able to not cap my income because of just me and my ability and my time and my resources. I need to be able to continue to keep that income coming in, to keep that cash flow going, you know, even if it means an added expense. In this case, it makes sense. There is an ROI, there is a margin, there's all these things to it. And I'm not capping my income because it is just me. You know, I have expanded to now we do the bookkeeping, we do the CFO, we do the taxes. It's all in one solution.
Yeah.
But it has people.
It's interesting with the team aspect of that being one of the expenses. I used to have a CPA, and that was his pain point when he looked at my numbers, was the amount of money that was paid to the team. And, you know, he was like, well, you know, either you need to charge more for your clients or you need to pay your team less. And I was like, well, I'm definitely not going to pay them less.
Yeah.
Because unless I just want people to leave or to tank the quality of what they're doing, that just.
Exactly. There's a reason why you're paying that. They're probably worth that.
Yeah. So I was like, so that's not an option. And I was like, they're paid for the hours they're working, you know, so it's not like this is just some ambiguous number that's pulled out of the air.
Yeah.
It hasn't been looked at. You know, I constantly look at how quickly different team members are working on different projects. So I kind of factor that in when I assign them to different clients, depending on, so I'm looking at the numbers and the data of all of that. But to me, the team, in my case, similar to yours, is such a value add
Mm-hmm.
that it allows us to offer so many other things than if it was just me, or maybe me and one other person. There'd be a limit. Then it'd be the thing of like wait lists and all of that type of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
turning people away. I would imagine it's probably similar to you. I can hire more people. You
Yeah.
know, somebody asked, like, is there a cap to the number of clients you can take on? No,
Yeah.
because as long as they're still humans,
Mm-hmm.
I can
Mm-hmm.
hire people and I can restructure to grow as
Yeah.
business grows, and I can cut down based on those, peak and valley times where things are a little slow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But to me, the team is absolutely worth the investment, and
Yeah.
I genuinely see them as probably my most valuable investment in my
Yeah.
business because it allows it to grow and expand so much.
Exactly. It's an expense. I think we call it an expense because it's on the profit and loss as an expense, but it really is a very fine line between an expense and an investment,
Yeah.
because and that's where I track with clients that have like contractors and things like that. I track the ROI of, okay, I have a specific client that we track the ROI of, is this contractors paying for their salary as well, or their pay,
Mhm.
and are they also paying for our operating expenses? And what is the margin there? Like, do we still have money after that
Mhm.
from just what they bring in,
Yeah.
And at the beginning, we didn't. And we found the reason and we figured it out and we looped it around. And now we do. And now every month I measure it and I say, okay, this is how much they were paid. This is how much they made. This is how much, our margin was. Then we paid our operating expenses, and then we still had this much left over. And
Yeah.
then it's like we're in this flow of, okay, we continue to have positive cash flow and we continue to be good. Okay, we're good. And unless we figure out those things, then we don't realize this is not so much an issue as it is, or an expense as it is an investment.
Yeah. I definitely think the difference when it comes to team, if they're helping you to grow or make money,
Hmm.
they're definitely an investment. Like,
Exactly.
and you figure most of my team's been with me for a while. So they're much better than maybe at the beginning when they were new and a little nervous. Where
Hmm.
now, as they see a client, they might have hired us to do a thing,
Hmm.
but now that they're in it, it's like they'll come to me and say, "Hey, just so you know, we fixed this thing, but these three things are not working properly." And
Hmm.
that's not what they came to us for, but we've seen it and
Yeah.
it's still not going to work properly.
Hmm.
And then I'll go and approach them to say, hey, this is what the team noticed. This is what can happen if you don't address it or whatever, depending on the
Hmm.
severity. So they're almost, well, it's not almost, they're basically upselling services based on need. We're not making it up,
Exactly.
but there's now so much increased value. Um,
Hmm.
and the team looking at potential solutions in that lens, but then also the clients who keep coming back, you know
Hmm.
who are like, hey, I know I came to you for this, but you guys pointed this out, and thank
Yeah.
goodness you saved my website or whatever.
Exactly.
And now let's work on the next thing. So in my I'm at a point now where I could say that like 98% of my team is absolutely an investment.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I agree for
All
sure.
right, well, is there anything else that you would like to share? Any other tips, don't do's and don'ts? Don't be like Tanisha, any of those things that you
Oh gosh.
that you do the profit session. I would definitely love for you to share that link in the comments after we're
Hmm.
done, so that people, if they're interested in doing that, just to kind of pick your brain, ask questions, kind of evaluate where things are, that would be
Hmm.
awesome. Of course, I will also share, in the comments, the link to our audit if anybody needs some clarity around their systems or processes and what they're using and looking at what's working and what's not working. But aside from all of that, is there anything else that you would like to share?
I think just, like, if there's nothing else that you got from this, leave knowing that at least start somewhere, even if that's just doing bookkeeping, you have to have data. If not, don't go around going, thinking, oh, I made this much, and then you realize that you didn't, or I'm making this much, or whatever the case may be. That would be number one. Number two would be keep your finances separate, your personal from your business. I know we didn't touch too much on that, but it is an accountant's nightmare, a bookkeeper's nightmare, and it is a nightmare for you because you won't know exactly how much is it's going to be a lot harder because things get hairy and it just gets all combobulated. So keep things separate, get some type of data, even if it's not strategy just yet, get some type of data, and then do work on getting that strategy, especially if your business needs it, because it's going to be just like what we were talking about, the contractors. Don't look at it as an expense, look at it as an investment, because what you can do with the guidance, with the clarity, with a plan in place will go way further than what you could do on your own. The same way with contractors, what you could do on your own and what you could do with them will go way further. So those would be my three things. Like if you don't get anything else, those would be the three things that you just really, that alone will propel you forward. And then if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm there. I post all the time, new content, new tips, and things like that for cash flow, tax planning, bookkeeping, accounting, all the things finance related. You could follow me at Cutting Edge Financial Solutions. Cutting Edge Financial Solutions.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Haley. One, you and I are going to talk. So
yeah,
get harassed on the other one.
Part 2.
But thank you so much. I know a lot of people are really excited about this specific topic because there is not any single one of us in business that has not had to or has to address cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one thing that we cannot avoid. And so this is an awesome topic. And I'm sure that there will be some other times that I need you to come back and maybe talk about something even more specific and drill down a bit more. But I appreciate you so much being here, and thank you so much for your time. Thank you to everybody who tuned in and asked, gave comments and some feedback and everything. That was super awesome. But you can catch the replays of this here, of course, on LinkedIn. You'll also be able to see them on our YouTube channel and in YouTube Shorts. And then we also will be sharing just little snippets here and there of the conversation in the future. So if you ever need to reach me or Haley, we will make sure that you have all the access to do so. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.